Although you may not even notice, you breathe around 17,000 times per day. This may seem like something very simple as breathing in and out. However, there are many different organs working together to coordinate this motion. Everybody knows we need oxygen to live. We can go weeks without food, days with no water, but only minutes without any oxygen. Have you ever wondered why oxygen is so important for our survival? What processes in our body does oxygen drive, or even the journey oxygen undertakes in our body to reach its destination? In this video, we'll be discussing just that. Let's begin with the journey of oxygen through our body. How exactly does oxygen enter our bodies and get to where it needs to? Firstly, oxygen needs to enter the respiratory system, your lungs and your airways. The way it does this is by entering through your mouth. Your diaphragm, which is a muscle that sits beneath your lungs, and the surrounding muscles around it, which are called the intercostal muscles, contract. This causes your lungs to expand, causing air pressure in your lungs to decrease. Naturally, air has a tendency to travel from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. An easy way to understand this is to picture a door and 100 people trying to get through the door from one side and one person trying to get through the door from the other side. It would be far easier for the 100 people to go against the flow of the one person than it would be for the one person to go against the flow of the 100 people. Therefore, it's easier for the area with a higher pressure to go to the area of a lower pressure. Once in the mouth, the oxygen travels through the windpipes and towards the lungs, where the air pressure is at its lowest. The trachea is the windpipe that leads into the lungs. The trachea branches off into the lungs in a manner which you can see in this image. The branching structure is much like that of a tree. The trachea branches off into two tubes leading into each lung. These tubes are called the bronchi. These bronchi branch off into yet smaller tubes called bronchioles. Oxygen follows the path of these tubes until it reaches the alveoli, the sac-like structures at the end of the bronchioles, as you can see in this image. The second phase of the journey of oxygen begins here at the alveoli. What we need to remember is the concept of gases moving from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration in order to fully understand what happens now. These sacs called alveoli are wrapped around by the smallest type of blood vessel called a capillary. The capillaries surrounding the alveoli carry deoxygenated blood, which has just come from the heart and is low in oxygen. The oxygen in the alveoli then follows its course down the concentration gradient and enters the capillaries, thus entering the bloodstream. This is a vital point in the journey of oxygen. The fact that it's now in the bloodstream means that it can reach any part of the body. Think of the bloodstream as the highway roads of the body. It can lead you to any one place in the body. Once inside the bloodstream, oxygen becomes bound to a molecule called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is found on red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes. So the oxygen is now being carried on red blood cells. The oxygen now travels inside the bloodstream to areas where it's needed, and then is offloaded from the hemoglobin at the places where it's needed. This leads us to the next part of the video, which answers the question, why and where is oxygen needed? To understand this, we need to know about a process called cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is the process of converting glucose from the foods we ingest into usable forms of energy for our body. This usable form of energy is called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. ATP is used to generate the energy needed for everyday processes inside your body. In fact, it's used to generate the energy in most, if not all, forms of life that we know of. Cellular respiration occurs within the cells of living things and provides the cells with the energy they need to carry out their function. Now that we know about respiration, let's talk about what oxygen has to do with respiration. Well, there are two methods cellular respiration can occur by: aerobic respiration, which occurs in the presence of oxygen, or anaerobic respiration, which can occur independently of oxygen. The problem with anaerobic respiration is that it's highly inefficient, yielding only a mere 2 molecules of ATP per glucose molecule it uses. However, aerobic respiration is very efficient. The oxygen allows for more ATP molecules to be generated per molecule of glucose it uses. To be precise, aerobic respiration can produce up to 38 molecules of ATP. Anaerobic respiration is therefore too inefficient to sustain human life, so we need oxygen so that we can respire aerobically. Just on a little side note, there are organisms called anaerobic organisms which are able to live without oxygen. This is purely because anaerobic respiration alone is sufficient to provide them with the energy they need to sustain their processes of life. However, our human bodies on the other hand are far too complex, and simply too much energy is being used without us even knowing, just for our daily body processes which keep us alive. Therefore, oxygen is just as important to us as food and water, as it allows us to generate enough energy to sustain the processes which keeps us alive. Without oxygen, we wouldn't be able to do this.